afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. It is Saturday, June 1st, and you know what that means. It is time for the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. I don't have to pass a background check. It's your host, Jeremy Pierce. Welcome, one and all. Don't forget to check out the socials. Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube. Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram. And, of course, the 215 on Twitter. And today's show with the surprise appearance of Jordynne Grace facing Roxanne Perez at NXT Battleground. Today's episode is WWE and the Forbidden Door. We're going to look at the few times that they have let superstars cross over and what needs to happen with this kind of talent exchange between the WWE and TNA. But for now, you know what's next, so just go on and hit my music. All right, so today's list is very, very simple. These are the 5 superstars, the WWE superstars who should enter through the Forbidden Door over to TNA. I'm starting number 5, Seth Rollins. This is perfect. He doesn't really have anything to do right now in the WWE, and he's taking time off. But when he comes back, a talent exchange going over to TNA will be beautiful. Just seeing him versus Nick Nemeth again, but more importantly, I am salivating at a Seth Rollins versus Josh Alexander matchup. It will be so good. Number 4, Roxanne Perez, the former Ring of Honor Women's Champion, wrestled in TNA as Roxy when she was the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and she lost that championship to Deonna Purrazzo. It would be good to see her kind of get a little extended run, and I'm making the assumption that she's going to defeat Jordynne Grace, so she needs to go over there and suffer her loss herself. Number 3, Chelsea Green. Chelsea was big time in TNA. She had a really good gimmick as the crazy stalker, jilted wife, and it was just really good. Seeing her now and what TNA is now would be really good. She could bring over essentially Piper Niven with her, and they could really go for a run in the Knockouts tag team division. Number 2, of course, is AJ Styles. Seeing the Phenomenal One back in the company that put him on the map, that made him famous, that gave him his start, would be a thing of beauty. He would be welcomed with open arms, and seeing a legend that has helped grow that company would be just a good sight to behold. And number 1, Natalya. Make no bones about it, Natalya has stated time and again she wants to face Jordynne Grace, and I really do think this match is going to happen. Getting her over in TNA has to happen. Just a veteran presence like that, working with Gail Kim, working with Mickie James, it'll be really good for her to just be in the promotion and face a new crowd of talent and really show people again what Natalya really is all about. We'll be right back. The spotlight is back, and it is shining on one Roxanne Perez. The current NXT Women's Champion has a large task at hand. She is going up against and defending her championship against one Jordynne Grace, the TNA Knockouts champion. Now, y'all know how I feel about Roxanne Perez. I don't really think she needs to be in NXT anymore. She is called the Prodigy for a reason. She is that damn good at professional wrestling. She is a former Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Now she has a large test in the TNA Knockouts champion. I like the fact that Roxanne said she didn't want to know who her opponent was going to be so she can be genuinely shocked. The girl gets the business, and we already know what she can do in the ring. She's going up against someone that's different from a lot of the women she's faced before. There aren't really any true powerhouses, any horses in the NXT women's division. I mean, yes, you have Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, but that's really it, and they're kind of the same wrestler. They're kind of in that same mode, but there's no one on the women's roster that is as strong as Jordynne Grace. So it is up to Roxanne to use her skill, use her technical ability, use her savviness to disrupt whatever Jordynne Grace is going to do. This is going to be a very, very fun and interesting matchup, and I'm really excited to see how this is going to play out. We kind of figure out who's going to win, but I want to see the path to how we get to that end result. We'll be right back. Wow. I didn't think it would happen. Yes, we have seen Jordynne Grace show up in the Royal Rumble for I think the last 2 years now. Mickie James showed up at one point, but the WWE has opened up the forbidden door, and we've discussed previously on this program that TNA is essentially the forbidden door. They will work with anybody as long as the money is right and everybody can look good coming on in. It really didn't work out so well the last time around with AEW, but Christian did give Kenny Omega his loss, so there was that. But right now the WWE is working with TNA, as Roxanne Perez will be defending the NXT Women's Championship against one Jordynne Grace, the current TNA Knockouts Championship. This is good. It's going down at NXT Battleground. I'm very, very excited about this. These are two of the best women going today, and even though Roxanne Perez is pretty young, she isn't called a prodigy just because. She is really that damn good in the ring. So that's what we have. But have there been past instances of the WWE working with other companies? Yes, there has, and let's go over a few. We had clearly in 1996, 1997 WWE working with ECW to kind of help keep that promotion afloat. RVD has showed up, and he beat a 19-year-old Jeff Hardy at the 1997 ECW Invasion. And how about in Impact Wrestling in 2012, Christian showed up at Slammiversary, and he was the Intercontinental Champion. Remember, he does have a previous stint in TNA from 05 to 08 where he became a TNA World Champion multiple times. WWE has worked with WXW, ICW, Progress, and Evolved. They've worked with AAA. They've worked with, at one point, he worked with New Japan and All Japan at the Wrestling Summit in the Tokyo Dome in 1990. We've had a few other instances, and they worked with Super World of Sports. In 1990, they worked with PCW with Apollo Crews and Matt Riddle going over to face, well, it was just Apollo Crews because Matt Riddle was still in PCW at that point, but they had Matt Riddle, they had Zack Sabre Jr. Like I said, and they worked with AAA, who showed up in the Battle Royal, Fight Club Pro with Akira Tozawa showing up, ICW, Mustache Mountain, Wolfgang Normdar. Like a lot of the guys that they had in NXT UK came from the WXW with Gunther. Can't forget about the 10th anniversary Evolve show that featured Adam Cole, Akira Tozawa, Matt Riddle, and Drew Gulak. Progress, when we had Pete Dunne versus Jack Gallagher. Obviously ECW, and once again New Japan. Remember when Jushin Thunder Liger fought Tyler Breeze at a takeover? That is what it's all about. That's what they've done, and we wish they would do it more often. Truly, the wrestling world isn't just the WWE. It's not, and I'm happy that they're starting to acknowledge it. And I think that's because Triple H is in charge, but AEW, TNA, New Japan, AAA, CMLL, Rev Pro, so many other companies acknowledge each other, and it's just a good business relationship. That's what you need. You've had Mickie James, a former multi-time world champion in both TNA and the WWE, show up in the Royal Rumble because you really did her dirty with the Piggy James storyline. Like, who in their right mind will call Mickie James fat? Like, let's be real. And then you've had Jordynne Grace show up in the Royal Rumble, and now she's facing Roxanne Perez. That's good. That's beautiful. That is what I am absolutely talking about. When you acknowledge the rest of the wrestling world, you don't come off as assholes. You don't come off as dicks. You say, okay, we know that we're quote unquote the top dog on the block, and we know that we have competition in AEW, but let's start working with other people. You got to remember this. This also kind of hurts AEW because let's take a look at this. WWE is number 1, AEW is number 2, and TNA is number 3. And TNA and AEW had a previous working relationship, and now they're kind of working with the biggest competition, which is all well and good, but it's like maybe we can't work with TNA anymore, because I've had many dreams of AEW and TNA working together, especially when it comes to the knockout division. But AEW's not hurting to work with other companies. They work with AAA, CMLL, New Japan, and now Stardom. So that's good. But what needs to happen moving forward with this going through the Forbidden Door on the WWE side? The WWE cannot dominate TNA. We know what happened with the Invasion. They were made to look like chumps, and they had a bunch of good stars, and there were a bunch of stars on the WWE side that are from the former companies. Stone Cold, Chris Jericho are really the big two. And at the end of the day, when the Invasion storyline was over, they came out, WCW, ECW came out looking like chumps, and it sucked, and that's there to be using their power. The WWE cannot dominate TNA. They just can't. TNA has to win some matches. They have to, because I don't think this challenge exchange is over. I don't think it'll end just with Roxanne versus Jordan Grace. There has to be more coming up. TNA, yes, fumbled the bag. Thank you, Dixie Carter, Hulk Hogan, Vince Russo, and Eric Bischoff, because TNA should have been the WWE's number 2 competition. They should have been number 2 promotion. And we're finally in a good spot. Yes, the second Scott D'Amore got fired, so we'll see what, we've talked about this, we'll see what happens moving forward, but they've got to look good here. It's been acknowledged on TNA. Jordan Grace is facing Roxanne Perez. The WWE has to say, all right, we'll show some TNA footage of a Jordan Grace leading up to the match. Jordan Grace actually has a match on NXT next week. That's very, very good. We need stuff like this. There has to be equal footing for both the men and the women. I think most importantly, number one, is that the women in the WWE, if they keep it strictly to NXT, the NXT woman will benefit the most, because a lot of their roster is green, with the exception of Roxanne, JC, Gigi, and excluding the women that are already on the main roster that are working in NXT right now. Most of the NXT women's division is green, and you will now have an opportunity to work with some very talented women in TNA. Those guys aren't green. Some of them are young, like Zaya Brookside and Danny Luna, but they aren't green. And you have a wonderful wrestling mind in Gail Kim, someone who the WWE had disrespected and treated honestly like crap, and she has become one of the greatest of all time. You need to use that. You need to use what TNA does with their knockouts division and show that, listen, you can do this, you can do that, you can elevate more. And mind you, I really do think that the NXT women's division is really growing and getting better and better, and they're featured a lot on NXT television. But use what TNA's bread and butter has been, which is the knockouts division. And then when it comes to the men, it's very, very simple. Put on great matches, tell great stories. Yes, again, I think TNA has the better men's division when it comes to NXT division, and a lot, again, I would say more than half of those guys in NXT are green, but they're getting better. And here you are with TNA, a fantastic men's roster that can help you grow. Imagine working with Josh Alexander, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Mustafa Ali, PCO, Alexander Hammerstone, Frankie Kazarian, Tommy Dreamer. These are wrestling minds. Trey Miguel. I am salivating to see what Trey Miguel can do against some of the WWE. Oh my God, if you give me Trey Miguel versus Seth Rollins, I'm going to lose my mind. Just show that we belong. You belong. You know what I mean? It can't just be we'll oversaturate with the men or we'll oversaturate with the women. Equal footing for equal, shows and timing. Then you got to give us title matches. You have to give us title matches. Look, it's very, very simple. TNA will give you a free match every so often, and it'll be a banger. What we have to have is interesting title matches that have good payoff. You know what I mean? Like, if we're sticking strictly to TNA versus NXT, you got to give me Trick versus Moose. You got to give me the System versus, I forget who the NXT Tag Team Champions are right now. We're getting Roxanne versus Jordan Grace, the Digital Media Champion. Crazy Steve versus Obi Fem, the North American Champion. Like, give us that. The hardest part would be the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, just because the main roster women hold the current WWE Tag Team Championship. But you can get a tag team from NXT, and since NXT has a North American Championship now for their women, you can grab somebody like Xia Brookside or Danny Luna or Jody Threat and have them face whoever wins that match. You have really, really good stuff here. And here's something that I think should happen, but won't happen. It's intergender matches. Okay? The last intergender match I could think of that happened in the WWE was Rhea Ripley versus Akira Tozawa, I believe. And it really wasn't a match. It was just Tozawa avoiding and countering, and there wasn't any true wrestling moves happening there. You know what I mean? But TNA does not shy away from intergender matches. We've seen Tessa Blanchard recently. We've seen Jordan Grace and Alicia Edwards and so many other women wrestle against them. There are women in currently in WWE who used to be in TNA, like Chelsea Green and Meechin, who have wrestled against the men in TNA. Like, I know it's something WWE doesn't want to do, but you don't even have to do the matches on WWE TV. You do the matches on TNA TV, and it's okay. It's okay, but I would love to see, Jordan Grace or Danny Luna or Jody Threat fight one of the men. And it'd be good and interesting because you can make anything in wrestling believable. And lastly, we have to have possibly a premium live event. Yeah, AEW has the Forbidden Door. WWE should have something for NXT. Once a year, NXT versus TNA. And remember what TNA's old slogan was? Cross the line. Call it WWE XTNA cross the line. But in a full event with a month of stories with TNA would be beautiful. Would be work of art, honestly. Like, imagine. And here's the thing, you don't even have to do champion versus champion. You can have Moose, Trick, Knockouts Tag, North American, NXT Women's, all face each other. And even and so maybe do a tag team champion versus champion match. But there are enough people on both rosters to fill out a 7-8 match card with maybe 2 matches on the pre-show. Let's just make it happen. Let's just do it. You can have the events at, I don't know, the Performance Center. Hell, even maybe book a smaller arena that seats maybe, 1,500 to 2,000 people, and just throw it on a network, throw it on TNA Plus, and just let it happen. You can't fumble this bag. You just can't. There's so much you can do, and there's so much fun that can be had. Just do it. I'm just hoping that Shawn Michaels and the powers that be don't hold back and don't get cold feet, because you have a prime opportunity here. AEW is going to knock it out of the park once again with Forbidden Door. They just are. TNA pay-per-views are usually very good. AEW pay-per-views are bangers. Damn near 9 times out of 10. Run an event, WWE versus TNA. Don't let it be as bad as the Alliance. And here's the thing: you can let a title or two change hands. You can. You can imagine seeing the NXT North American Women's Championship in TNA. Imagine seeing the X Division Championship in NXT on Axiom or Nathan Frazier. Oh my God! Just don't fumble the bag, WWE. And I'm saying WWE because TNA won't fumble the bag. They're smart. They don't get jealous. They're like, let's do what's best for business. It's up to WWE to not let this opportunity fall out of their hands. But that is our show for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. We got the schedule coming up. Couple shows. We got the podcast today. We've got 2 lists next week. The WWE matches that have to happen this year. We got a flashback Friday looking at Clash of the Castle 2023, and the next show, the next Hours Wrestling podcast show, will be the Ballad of Liv Morgan. She has started her revenge tour, so we'll see what's next with her. But that's everything. Check out the socials: Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and of course the 215 on Twitter. And as always, Bailey, Willow Nightingale, Isla Dawn, Gigi Dola, Anna J, and Chris Statlander. Holla at your boy. Peace.